Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bitter Rivals podcast. This is episode 103, you said? 103. I am your host, Avery and This is your co-host, Gitano Gallo. This episode is powered by 91. And so let's get right to it. We're going to start get some somber news out of the way. Rest in peace to Chris Snow, assistant general manager of the Calgary Flames. Obviously, that's where Treliving was before. They were very close. Absolutely heartbreaking stuff. You feel for his family. He's got 2 young children, a wife, and he did lose his battle with ALS. So obviously, Bitter Rivals podcast prayers go out to the Snow family.
Yeah, there's no nice way to transition from that. But the Habs and Leafs did play a couple games the last couple nights.
Yeah, Leafs won both of them, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, last night is probably one that you would have liked to have seen Montreal win if you're a Montreal fan, considering the Leafs had no notable forwards other than obviously notable prospects, but not
no NHL. Established NHLers.
Yeah, so you would have. I thought honestly Montreal would have put up a little bit of a better effort last night. I was a little disappointed in what they did, and it wasn't. I don't know. I didn't pay too much attention to the game. I was paying attention to actually the baseball game, which saw the Blue Jays clinch. So that's what I just kind of was tuning in and out of the Leafs Habs game, and I knew the score, and that was about it. So
what I will say is I wasn't upset with the effort. It was the execution was a little off.
Yeah.
But the effort was there, and it's preseason, so I really don't care that much.
You can't read into too much in the preseason. Everybody knows that. So one thing that we haven't talked about was the Matthews contract. So let's get right to that. We forgot last week because there were so many things to get to, and there was the Babcock thing, and that kind of threw us offline a little bit. So let's get right into that. So it is a 5-year deal at 13.5, I believe, is the number, right?
It's that ballpark, yeah. It's 13 point something. What that point is doesn't really matter.
Makes him the highest paid player in the NHL, which I think is what he wanted. There were a lot of Leafs fans that were upset that it wasn't an 8-year deal, which you're not going to get an 8-year deal out of that guy. He knows that he's one of the best players in the world, and he also knows that he should be one of the highest paid players in the world. And if the cap keeps going up, then the only way for that to happen is for him to sign short-term deals so that he can continue to increase his salary as the cap goes up. He thinks of himself as a percentage of the salary cap rather than a specific number in terms of dollar figures, right?
To be fair, he's one of the few players in the league that can do that. So
yeah, of course. And it's going to be a never-ending, as the cap goes up, it's going to be a never-ending competition between the 4 or 5 best players in the world that will continue to set new records for yearly salaries, AAVs in the NHL, right? That's going to continue to happen. The next time McDavid's up, McDavid's going to be the highest paid player. The next time McKinnon's up, he'll be the highest paid player. That's just how this is going to go. Matthews is doing it right, though. And if you're the Leafs, obviously you want a longer-term deal. But I'm not saying that Auston Matthews will never not be worth pretty much as much money as he wants. But what I am saying is this guy's been hurt a lot in his career. Who knows what happens in 5 years? What if in 5 years he had to go through some sort of shoulder surgery and he comes back and he's never the same guy? You've protected yourself with this 5-year deal from that, right? I see it more as a good thing for both sides because, like I said, Matthew's going to continue to be the highest paid player in the league throughout his career. But I also see it as good for the Leafs because it protects them from long-term injury issues, which could happen with this guy. He's been hurt several times in his career. He's rarely been able to play a full season. But when he was able to play that full season, he scored 60 goals. So, yeah, it can go both ways, no matter what way you're looking at it. I think I would have preferred to have him for longer term, but 5 years is a long time, and that puts him at 13 years as a Toronto Maple Leaf. The first 13 years of his career will be spent as a Toronto Maple Leaf. I'll buy that.
How old is he when this deal runs out?
So he'll be 31.
Okay, that's not bad either.
No, and he'll still be in a position to earn very, very high AAV, right? That's a foregone conclusion. He's at 31. Well, it's possible that he could fall off. It's highly unlikely.
And like, even if he does fall off, like, if he like only is a 40 goal scorer in his like early 30s, like, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
Like, I think that's still a pretty good deal regardless.
Yeah, in the contract, I'm pretty sure everybody knew was going to get done. It felt like there was a lot less chatter about that one than there was about the Nylander situation. I honestly was expecting a higher number than 13.5. Like I've said it on this show before that he can basically just say blank check. Like, I'll tell you how much I'm making to the Toronto Maple Leafs because they can't lose him, and they know that. So he can command his own salary. I'm a little surprised he didn't take more than 13.5. Yes, he's the highest paid player in the league, but especially with the rumor of the cap going up next summer, like I've heard rumors that it could go up for $4 or $5 million. You know?
Yeah, I don't think it's going up $4 or $5 million in one jump. No, I don't think so. Anyways.
Well, and what makes you say that? Because the insiders all say that that's going to happen. Like Darren Dreger, Sarah Valley.
I understand that, but like we haven't seen that like ever. It's always been like 1 mil, 1.5 mil.
Yeah, so, but like, the reason that it's going up like that is because it hasn't gone up for 3 years, right? And now that the escrow is being paid back by the players, they can account for the fact that it hasn't gone up for the past 3 years. So that's why it's going to go up a significant amount, is because it hasn't, right? And it has been expected to. And it kind of sewered the Leafs, as we know. They structured their cap situation under the assumption that the cap would have gone up in small increments over the past few years, but it just simply hasn't. So we'll see if they can utilize this cap jump and hopefully some more cap jumps in the future.
Speaking of cap, Hal, I just want to talk Ottawa Senators quickly because it's really funny, to me anyways, that one of the huge like talking points about the Leafs from Senators fans has been like poor cap management, and yet the Sens are struggling to sign Shane Pinto.
Yeah. Yeah, and the money that they've dished out on some of their players is a little bit crazy, and it similar to my thoughts about the Nick Suzuki contract or contracts like the Jake Sanderson contract. I agree that there's potential for these guys to grow into those contracts, but you don't pay somebody for what they're going to be. You pay somebody for what they are, right? Because you can't say for sure what they're going to be, and that's the same situation with a guy like Nick Suzuki, and he is growing into a very good player. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's crazy to pay somebody before you know what they are. I understand the logic behind it, and the logic behind it is simply you want to get them before they blossom into somebody who might be worth, like, what's Suzuki's contract? 8 mil, 7.8, is that what it is?
It's just short of 8, I think.
I think it's 7.8.
Yeah, I'll pull it up for you right here.
Anyway, regardless of what it is, they want to pay him that rather than maybe 10, maybe 11, maybe 12.
7.875.
Okay, so and that's why you sign these guys, these young kids, to long-term deals. That's an 8-year deal, right?
Yeah.
8-year, 8.75. Who knows? Maybe by year 3 he develops into an $11, $12 million player. And a team like Montreal can stomach eating that extra couple million that he's not worth yet, because they're not a good team anyway. They're not in cap hell, right?
Exactly.
And that's kind of what Ottawa's done, except they're a team that, remember, the rebuild is over, right? So you can't afford to pay Jake Sanderson, overpay him for the next couple of years by $3 or $4 million. You just can't afford it, because you're going to need that for players like Shane Pinto, right? And I don't think you needed to give that kid all that money yet. Do you?
God, no.
Not when you're trying to contend, which, by the way, you're not. You're just delusional if you think you are, and you're an Ottawa Senators fan. You're not a contender. Like, you're not even close. You think Jonas Korpisalo is going to fix your problems? You think Jonas Korpisalo, the corporal, is going to fix the problems in Ottawa? Yeah. He's not good enough to make up for that absolutely lackluster defensive core. Thomas Chabot's a great defenseman offensively. Jake Sanderson's a great defenseman offensively. Give me one defenseman on that team that you would throw out there final 2 minutes in a game and you're comfortable. Give me one name.
I honestly would probably rather throw 5 forwards out there.
Artem Zub?
No, not a chance.
Artem Zub?
He's a great like bottom pairing guy, but like
Yes.
I'm not throwing him out there in the last 2 minutes of a game to protect a lead.
No, call up Ron Hainsey. He'd probably do a better job, honestly. He'd take a step down from his NHLPA position, and he might be able to fill in better than some of those guys that they have back there. And if you think Jonas Korpisalo is enough to make up for the lack of strength on the back end, you got a big thing coming, Ottawa fans. Big thing coming, because he's not. He's not. And if you think Ottawa's a strong enough like their forward group's strong enough defensively to make up for all of those miscues in the back end, you're in for a rude awakening. So good luck to the Ottawa Senators this year. We're going to do a little bit of a preview, and I think I just gave you a little bit of foreshadowing about what I think about the Ottawa Senators. So yeah, that's my opinion on that situation and their cap hell. Timmy Stützle is like the only guy that's worth it, in my opinion. Brady Tkachuk is he's a very, very loud character, and he's their captain. Other than that, he is average. He is so mid in terms of actual skill level as a winger in the NHL. He's so mid. He's like his brother, but like half as skilled. That's what I see Brady.
And he is making 8.205.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it.
Yeah, and DeBrincat wanted out. DeBrincat's gone. You got Claude Giroux, who's a little pigeon. You got, who else is it? Who do they got Batherson, who may or may not be implicated in a sexual assault case. You have they do
have Vladimir Tarasenko.
Tarasenko is downward trending stock, my friend. Downward trending stock. Talk to a New York Rangers fan about the impact he had after the trade deadline last year. Ask them about it.
He's been downward trending since 2018.
Yes, exactly. Since he won a Stanley Cup, and he wasn't even on the. Did he? He didn't even play for that Stanley Cup.
I don't even remember. I do remember he was hurt.
He was hurt. He did not play in that Stanley Cup run.
Yeah.
But yeah, ask a Rangers fan about the impact that he had, both him and Patty Kane. If we're talking about negative impacts at the deadline, those were a couple of the most disappointing impact players signed at or traded for at the deadline, and they were both on the Rangers. So, yeah, I don't know how much of a positive influence he can have on that Ottawa team. Also, throughout his career, if I'm not mistaken, Vladimir Tarasenko has not been regarded as the greatest teammate of all time.
No, and even just on the ice, he's been very inconsistent. He was a 40-goal scorer one year, and then struggled to crack 20 for the next couple. Then has one really good season, probably in the 30s, 35, and then back down to the 20s.
Mid.
Not what this Ottawa Senators team needs in a rebuild.
Mid. Yeah. Maybe you should have used it. You want to talk about man, not that there was
they're paying him $5 million.
Yeah, not that there was a big plethora of defensemen to go sign this year, but you don't think you could have spent $5 million in a better place?
Yeah.
Other than an aging Vladimir Tarasenko?
I feel like he's going to be what Mike Hoffman was in Montreal for the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just the couple of times that he you can get feet in the puck, yeah, he's going to score a couple goals, but he's going to do absolutely nothing else for you anywhere else on the ice.
Yep. All right. What else? Do you want to get right into team rankings, or what did you want to do now?
I was just going to quickly talk about, so the Habs have started some cuts from training camp. Obviously, the big one being Grindbacker being loaned back out to HC Kloten in Switzerland. Obviously, the right call. I thought he was pretty good in the game last night. He's actually played, I thought, pretty well in the couple of games he did play in. Obviously, he's 18. He was never going to make the team out of training camp. But, so he's going back to Switzerland. And then a couple other guys, Jovesh, Kidney, Farrell, and Trudeau are all going to Laval. Sean Farrell's he was so good last night. Came out of Harvard, their hockey program. And, I thought he was really good.
Did hear his name in the cup for the little bit of time that I was watching. I heard his name a lot, Farrell.
Yeah, he's just kind of involved in everything. And so I was pretty impressed with him. Obviously, starting the season, Laval is not the worst thing for a young player. And that's pretty much it. So do you want to start? I think we'll start in the West. I think it probably makes sense. And then next week we'll do the East.
Yeah, there are a couple things from Leafs camp that I wanted to mention as well before we get there. Actually, so you reminded me by going about your Habs camp. Easton Cowan was a hell of a surprise for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hell of a surprise. The couple games that I did get to watch, he was everywhere. Like,
bro, I was so ready to meme this kid, and then like the 2 games, I was like, oh fuck, he actually like played pretty well.
He played amazing. He was setting up goals, scoring goals. Nick Robertson played quite well against Montreal. Hate to see what happened to Connor Timmins. Apparently a long-term injury after taking a big hit. I did not see the hit.
Like, if you do find the clip, like there's nothing, like it's a nothing hit. It's just like he just kind of like gets rubbed out on the boards, like decent hit, but like there was nothing crazy about it. And then there's he's long-term injury. What the fuck?
You hate to see it for a guy who was having an exceptional camp, like leading the preseason in points levels of exceptional camp. Connor Timmins leading the preseason in point. Like, that's crazy to me. But yeah, you hate to see that happen to him. Some other names that have looked very good are Fraser Minton has looked very good in Toronto. And you love seeing the development of your Finnish defenseman, Topi Niemelä. He's been very good as well. Other than that, there hasn't been many notable things coming out. John Klingberg's got a little bit of a nagging injury, so that sucks. You hate seeing stuff get aggravated like that in preseason when it doesn't matter.
Well, actually, I have one for Leafs camp, and I know we've kind of talked about him before. Matty Nyes is going to be a real fucking annoying player for me, I feel like.
He's good. That guy knows ball. Like, that guy's good. Like,
yeah.
He's
like, I'm getting frustrated with him in preseason. I'm like, fuck, this is going to be a long, long time.
Yeah, that cat's going to be a player for sure.
Yeah.
You can see it. You can really, really tell. He's such a hockey guy, and you can feel it.
Like he's got it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a steal of a draft pick. I think that's a second rounder, 43rd or something overall. Yeah. I know, like, that's amazing. Like, maybe not Datsuk 7th round levels of draft steal, but that's a draft steal.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, let's get right to the West, and we'll do some preseason predictions. So, here, I'm going to have to actually, I'm watching football on my side screen here, so I'm going to have to pull up the divisions. You said we're starting in the West. What division?
Let's go with the Pacific. Let's go with the defending Stanley Cup champions in here.
All right. The Pacific Division. Okay, let's start at the bottom.
So I actually have last year's standings up. I feel like it's probably not going to change. I feel like Anaheim's probably still going to be bottom of this division. They've not done enough this summer to kind of really move, but they're also kind of in the similar spot of Montreal where they're very clearly rebuilding. I just think they are the worst team in this division. Like,
I'm going to actually say the San Jose Sharks are going to finish on the bottom, and that's just a gut instinct. That there's no analytics behind that call at all. That's a pure gut call. So San Jose Sharks.
My one thing with the Ducks is they still also have not signed Trevor Zegras.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I mean,
I like them finishing in second last.
I'm going to say San Jose Sharks finish in 7th because they're just a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the. I'm going to go with the Vancouver Canucks finishing at 6th. I don't like Vancouver. I never have liked Vancouver. I don't like Vancouver fans. I don't like Vancouver players. I don't like anybody on that organization. I just don't. So they're still. They're like they are the definition of mediocre is the Vancouver Canucks. So we're going to put them at 6th of 8. Next, do you have them there as well, or?
Yeah, 100%.
Next, I am going to go with the Calgary Flames. I was considering putting these guys actually behind Vancouver, but I think they have a chance to be better than they were last year, significantly better. If Markstrom turns it around, Huberdeau has an average year for the guy. Nazem Kadri's another year settled in there, or now a full year settled in there. So we'll see. I think they'll finish higher than Vancouver, but I don't think they make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Calgary's got the pieces to have like an okay season. Because maybe, and then obviously, if Markstrom overperforms, if Huberdeau, goes off, if Kadri goes off, like then you might see them push for playoffs. But like even if those guys just play okay, they should be comfortably better than the Canucks.
Okay, so that is our bottom four there. I am going to go in fourth. I am going to put the Los Angeles Kings. I think that they're also a very mediocre team. They're just a better level of mediocre than either Vancouver or Calgary. They're an aging team, obviously. They have some young players, but they just haven't seemed to really do much. I don't get to watch them that much, but standings and stats usually don't lie, and they're mid. That's about all you can really say about this team. They are mid.
I think the best way to describe it is like they brought in like PLD, and I just don't think that's
what they need.
Enough. It's not the but it's also like not enough of like a jump in quality of anyone else that they really had to like make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. So you have them there as well at 4?
Yeah, I was actually torn between them. And actually, I was going to say the Edmonton Oilers just on their goaltending. I just don't think they're going to get that goaltending that they need to really, I think they'll be a playoff team for sure. I just don't think they'll be kind of up high in the division. So, I'll settle for giving the Oilers third in the division, if you'd like.
Okay. So you have the Oilers at 3.
Yep.
That's interesting. I am going to put the Vegas Golden Knights at 3. And the reason I say that is I have significantly more confidence in the Edmonton Oilers goaltending than I do in the Vegas Golden Knights goaltending. The Vegas Golden Knights used like 7 goalies last year, and I'll give somebody $10 if they can send me an email or a message to this account. If you're listening right now, I will give you $10 if you can prove to me that without looking on your phone, you know the name of one Vegas Golden Knight goaltender. 1.
2. Let's go 2, because everyone knows 1.
2, that's fair. 2. That's why I'm going to put them at 3. I don't care that they're the Stanley Cup champions. They're Stanley Cup champions because they have a team built for the Stanley Cup playoffs. But that doesn't determine how you finish in the regular season. So I'm going to have them at 3. I am going to go Seattle. Who's your 3 first?
So my 3, I'm really tempted to stick Edmonton here. I think I'm going to stick with Edmonton here.
Okay, you did say that. I'm going to go Seattle at 2. And that obviously means Edmonton at 1.
So I'm going to go Vegas at 2 and Seattle at 1.
Seattle at 1. What in God's name makes you think that they're a 1?
I don't know. I think they're the most well-rounded of those like top teams, if that makes sense.
Okay. I think that they have a massive problem between the pipes, a massive issue. And I think it's hard for anybody to finish 1 when you have a massive issue between the pipes. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but out of all of these teams here, I am the most, like, I can't believe you said the goaltend, because out of all of these teams, I am the most confident in Edmonton's goaltending. I think Stuart Skinner's actually a really, really good goalie.
I'm not at all convinced by him.
And I actually, believe it or not, watched quite a few Edmonton games last year.
Yeah, no, I just think like Skinner and Campbell, that's like he's not it's not a good one too. Like that's
Campbell's a little questionable, as we know, but I like Stu Skin, and he's a young guy.
Like all of these teams have questions of like goaltending.
Yeah.
So like it's difficult to really say, but like I said, I think Seattle's the most well-rounded of the 4. Sorry.
Okay, I'll buy that. So, all right, we're not too different here. I'm a little higher on Edmonton than you are. You're way higher on Seattle than I am.
Yeah.
I still have them at 2, but I think the gap between 1 and 2 is pretty big for me. And you know what can happen here? Like, Jacob Markstrom could have a Vezina season and Calgary could finish first. Like, easily. That could easily happen.
Like, actually, looking at this whole division, like, the Flames are probably like the team that I would have the most faith in their goaltending.
It's just Markstrom's been so bad he was so bad last year and so bad in the playoffs the year prior to that, and he just never never at any point had his form last year. Like not
No,
one time.
he never recovered from that playoff performance at all.
No. All right, so that's the Pacific. Let's move into the Central.
All right, I feel like the basement in the Central got to be just to rip the Band-Aid off. It's Arizona.
Arizona's finishing last, and it's only because they don't have Connor Bedard.
Basically.
Yes. So it's Arizona 8, Chicago 7, and it's only because Arizona doesn't have Connor Bedard. I've seen some people very high on the Predators this year, so I'm gonna leave them out of this 6th spot. I'm gonna put the St. Louis Blues in the 6th spot, and
yeah, I think that's fair.
I don't think that they have a lot of positivity coming into this season. They were selling last year at the deadline, and it feels like they don't really know what they are down in St. Louis right now.
No, they haven't fully committed to the rebuild yet, which is weird when you trade Tarasenko and you trade Ryan O'Reilly. Like that should be the okay, like, but they just kind of haven't. Exactly. It's a weird spot, but yeah, I think 6. I still think they're better than Chicago and Arizona. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, for sure. I am going to put the Minnesota Wild in the 5 spot.
Yep, I can agree with that.
Those buyouts of Suter and Parise are going to haunt that team for the next 10 years, and it starts now. So they have Kirill Kaprizov and not a whole lot. I just can't see them making too much of a push this year. So are we in agreement on the bottom 4?
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with that bottom 4, not gonna lie. Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Jets next at 4.
Yeah, I think so too. But I also think this could really, really change if they decide to start selling.
Yeah.
Like,
of course.
There's been rumors of Hellebuck wants out. And I think if he goes, then they probably slip at least 1 position, maybe even 2 in the division.
Yeah. I'm gonna go next, but I'm gonna go Nashville, the Predators. And again, a lot of people are high on this team. They obviously have one of the best offensive defensemen in the league in Roman Josi. They have UC Saros, who's a fantastic goaltender. But the problem for me with Nashville, for the past, I swear to God, it's been like 15 years, they don't have a stud offensive guy.
No.
They never have. The closest thing they ever had was Peter Forsberg, and he was there for like a cup of coffee.
Even recently, like what, Philip Forsberg's the best they've had?
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's all they've had. Matt Duchene, like.
Sorry, no. I thought you were talking because Peter Forsberg played for them for like 1 year, did he not?
So he was there for a cup of coffee. That's what I'm saying. He was there for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just making sure we're getting our Forsbergs. We're not getting our Forsbergs.
No, Philip Forsberg's been there for what, like 10 years? Wasn't he a Washington draft pick?
Yeah. No, but you said Peter Forsberg.
Yeah, Peter Forsberg at first.
Yeah. Okay.
They haven't had like a stud offensive guy since Peter Forsberg. And he was there for a cup of coffee. That's what I'm saying.
Sorry, no, because the Philip Forsberg thing threw me off there because I wasn't sure.
Yes, 2 of them. Yeah, two guys named Forsberg. Yes.
Yeah. But no, they literally haven't. Like what, Matt Duchene?
Like, that's what I mean. They don't have that stud.
The best you had, like.
Now they have Ryan O'Reilly. Like, I'm sorry, I watched him for an entire couple months last year. He's not that stud guy that's going to produce offense. He just isn't.
No, I would probably say he's a facilitator of offense, but he's not your stud guy.
No. But that's still in a playoff spot that we are putting the Nashville Predators. And I think we can agree it's due to their beefy back end and UC Saros.
100%.
Yeah. So that leaves 2 teams, Colorado and Dallas. I'm going to assume we have these in the same order, and it's Dallas 2, Colorado 1, or are you going to make a claim?
I'm trying to make a claim, but like I just can't.
Yeah, Colorado's got the best defenseman in the world in Cale Makar. They have one of the best players in the world in Nathan McKinnon, and then they also have Mikko Rantanen. Landeskog, I think, is kind of spent if he ever plays again. They got Bowen Byram on the back end, Devon Taves. They're just through and through so good. But so's Dallas.
The only argument I could make for Dallas, and so I was trying to formulate this argument, but there was no way I was going to win it, was I think Jake Ottinger is the best goalie. Out of those, like in those two organizations, he's like miles ahead.
Oh, for sure. And you got to make a case for some of their big pieces as well, right? Like Miro Heiskanen's one of the best defensemen in the league. He's not Cale Makar, but he's close. He is a very, very good player. They got Jason Robertson on the front end, one of the most underrated players in the league. Everybody sleeps on this guy.
I don't know how he's underrated anymore. We've been talking about him being underrated for literally the entire length of the podcast existing, and he's somehow still underrated.
Joe Pavelski's still clutch.
Oh, he's playing like he's 25. It's disgusting.
What if Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn have a good year?
Yeah. Well, even if they have just like an okay year, like I think Dallas is really, really, really good. I just think Colorado's better.
Yes. All right. So that is the Western Conference put together for you. Let's move on to the Metro in the East.
And then are we going to do the whole league here?
What do you mean?
I thought we were going to do the East next episode, but I'll happily do the fucking whole league right now.
Do you want? Oh yeah, we can do that next. That's actually probably a good idea because we're already over a half an hour here.
Yeah.
So let's do the East next episode. So there's a teaser.
Just because I know we're gonna spend way too much time talking about Montreal and Toronto, so like I don't.
Here, I'll give you guys a little taste. The Flyers are the worst team in the Eastern Conference.
It's tough because the Ottawa Senators exist.
No, the Senators are going to be better than Philadelphia. They're just not good. Like, just because you're better than Philadelphia doesn't mean you're a good team. Philadelphia is not the bar.
Philadelphia is well below the bar.
Yes. Well below the bar. Like, very much well below the bar. Poor Carter Hart.
Also, Columbus sucks and they don't even have a coach right now, so.
They do, but I don't know his name.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks, Babs. Anyway, all right, so there is your Western Conference taken care of for you. Predictions here on this show. High on teams that have good players. That's basically where we're at with these rankings. And newsflash, the Arizona Coyotes don't have good players. The Blackhawks have one good player, and that's why they are where they are. Teams like Colorado and Dallas have several good players. That's why we rank them where they are. It's not rocket science. So
yeah, no, and I think you can if you just compare rosters, you can see the division in the divisions. You know what I mean? Like it's not. Yes. At least in the West. Like I know in the East, especially the Atlantic, there's
the Atlantic's going to be tough to judge this year.
Exactly, and even like the Metro's got some teams that are all kind of on par, but I think just in the West, it's really lopsided. You have, 4 really good teams in each division and 4 really not good teams in each division.
Mediocre teams, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then when we're doing the East too, we're gonna have to consider Vasilevsky's supposed to be out for the first couple months of the year now.
I thought it was only 8 weeks, but that was
2 months.
Yeah, but it was he got hurt a couple weeks ago, so he's already into those couple weeks. No,
I thought it was a surgery that happened earlier this week.
Oh, okay, so maybe.
And the timeline was 8 weeks to come back from that. I think it was knee.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood. I thought he got hurt a couple weeks ago, and it was 8 weeks back. So no, if he missed the first 5-6 weeks this season,
no, it was definitely a surgery. It wasn't an injury that happened. I believe it was a surgery to repair something long term.
Yeah, let's take a quick look, see if we can find it.
Yeah, and I don't like who even is their backup right now. I don't know, and there's some other things with that team. I think they might fall off this year, man. I'm gonna we'll see next week when the heart tells me what to do, but I can see me taking that the Tampa Bay Lightning out of the playoff picture.
Oh, that's blasphemous, Dave. And it's a back injury.
Back, not
yeah,
knee. Okay.
back, and yeah, it's 2 months, so 8 weeks. But it's like something that started recently. That was my bad. I misunderstood that. But
No, it's no worries.
To say that they're not going to make the playoffs, that's
There's just so many good teams, dude. Like, I would not be surprised that in April we're saying, wow, the Buffalo Sabres were a better team this year than the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, that just wouldn't surprise me because the Leafs are going to be there, right? You want to say the Panthers, after what they did last year in that playoff run, they're going to be there, right?
Yeah.
But for me, Buffalo, I think, is a very good team. I think Rasmus Dahlin is one of the better teams in the league. Like, it comes down to Buffalo, Tampa, and Boston for 3 spots for me.
Oh yeah, no, like for sure, at least one.
Or for 2
really
spots, not 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I for sure, like at least one, potentially 2 really good teams are going to be missing out on playoff spots here. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Not up for debate. I just don't think it's going to be like they're just. I think they might struggle these first like 8 weeks without Vasilevsky.
Well, how about Steven Stamkos' comments about his GM? They didn't even call him for an extension. Like, if that's not an issue in the locker room, I don't know what is.
Yeah, but I also think if you want to win a Stanley Cup, that's something you just put aside and you just go, fuck it, we'll deal with it. At the end of the year, I'll win a Stanley Cup.
They have a couple. They have a couple Stanley Cups. I think Steven Stamkos wants to get paid now.
I mean, true, but I mean, I don't also think he's not getting paid on this next deal.
No, he's too old, but he believes that he's earned the respect of the organization that they should pay him.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right mentality. Like even Steven Stamkos, the captain of the team, has to realize that it's not what you've done for me, it's what you can do for me. It's what you are now. It's what you're going to be throughout the life of this contract. We talked about it earlier with paying young guys. You might overpay for them for a couple of years, but it's so that you underpay for them later in their careers. That's why you sign these contracts. You're not going to overpay Steven Stamkos right now. He's not going to get better. He's on the wrong side of 30, right? He's a dwindling asset. He's an asset on the decline. He's like GameStop. He's right. Like that's what he is.
Well, and the other thing, but like, so my take on this is that if he puts that aside and says, "Fuck, I'm just gonna drop a 40-goal season. I'm gonna make them have to re-sign me and pay me." You know, instead of focusing on they didn't call me, we didn't discuss it. Like, if you just put that aside and say, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna bury 40 and we're gonna go on a deep playoff run." Like, I think that's the better way to go about things.
Yeah, but I think there's less. Not desire. I don't know if desire is the wrong word or right word. Less motivation to do that when you're already a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, right? Like that's the point I'm trying to make. Is it's not like he doesn't have a cup. It's not like he's chasing the ring. He's got a couple rings. He wants to be respected now by the organization that he won 2 rings for. It's not about winning another one. It's about It's about having earned your respect. For him.
What better way to earn more respect than win a 3rd one?
Because you don't want to do it for that organization because they disrespected you. Anyway, we could talk about this later. We will talk about this later. Anyway, let's move on. Anything else that you need to get off your chest before we conclude episode 103 of the Bitter Rivals podcast?
I was going to hit you with a quick spontaneous fill in the blank here. Just I've seen the videos of him practicing and training, warming up, getting ready for the season. Patrick Kane's going to play for blank this year.
Patrick Kane's going to play. I think he is going to play for the who's Buffalo's AHL team?
The Rochester Americans?
The Rochester Americans, because he is not Patrick Kane anymore. Coming off of surgery, he's going to try to play for Buffalo, but the thing about Patrick Kane is you would actually do better by just placing a fridge on the ice when it comes to defense. So I don't know if he's going to be able to produce enough offensively to make his defensive liability worth it. I hope he shuts me up and makes me look like a complete asshole, because I kind of sound like an asshole saying it right now, like it's Patrick fucking Kane. But I have a hunch that he's done.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have a hunch that he will never come close to what he was again. And he could make me look like a complete asshole. Like he really could. But I just don't see it.
Fair. Man, other than that, I think I'm good. Habs have their last couple of preseason games coming up this week.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't care about the preseason anymore. Like, I was over it after the first game, which I could barely pay attention to. Give me some good old hockey, baby. Regular season hockey with the big boys in the lineup. Samsonov in the net. Like, that's what I want. I don't care anymore about this preseason shit. Let's get to the regular season here.
But what I will say about the preseason, it's just good to have hockey back on TV. Like, it's so good, even when the Habs aren't playing, to just be able to like put hockey on.
I know it's not the same when it means nothing.
Well, I know, but it's just I mean I'd rather watch hockey. I'd rather watch meaningless hockey than like no hockey at all.
Well, you watch meaningless hockey all year last year. You'll watch it again all year this year. So I hear.
I've been watching pretty meaningless hockey since fucking like July of 2021. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bitter Rivals podcast. If you can't tell, I was exhausted the whole episode. I was up at 6 o'clock this morning. So thank you for listening. Thank you to the 91N for powering this episode. We will see you next week with episode 104. We will be, 3 nights out from opening night? When's opening night? The 10th?
Opening night's the 10th, and then Habs Leafs go on the 11th.
So we will be very, very close to puck drop on the regular season in our next episode, and we cannot wait to get our last episode in. Will the last episode in be with Trevor Edgar? Have we confirmed that yet?
Hopefully. We're waiting on confirmation. We're hoping for it.
Waiting on Trevor's secretary to get back to us with confirmation that he will be able to make the episode next Sunday. If he doesn't, you'll just be stuck with us. Thank you again for listening this week, and we'll talk to you later.